so we need to use an object to control what happens with our sequences. Luckily, we already have one that we're using, the control object. So go ahead and open up obj_control and head to its game start event. We're going to add in a few new variables to start dealing with our sequences, and I'll just make this full screen. Underneath the enums that we've created before, let's make a new line. And we're going to create states for our sequences, just like we did with the player and for our items. So I'll type in a comment, sequence states. And we're going to create a new enum, so I'll type enum, and we'll call this seq states, state rather. Open and close that enum up. And we'll add in 4 constants. So not playing with a comma, waiting, playing, and finished. And then we're going to add some variables, so I'll make a comment here. And we'll type sequence state, that's a new variable. And we'll give it the value of one of these enums just by default. So seq state dot not playing and cur seq layer equals no one and cur seq equals no one. So we'll be using these to control and track things later on. We're going to pay attention to what the state of our current sequence is. We're going to make sure that we always understand the layer on which our sequence will play. That'll be the layer in our room. And then we're going to make sure we track what the current playing sequence is so we can do things to it before and after it starts. Just going to close this tab. So let's go to the room start event that we put in our control object. Currently, we're only using it to play some audio when we enter the main game room. Below this, let's create a new code block, and we'll call it mark sequences layer. And I'm going to put in an if statement. If layer exists, and within that if statement, I'm going to change the value of the cur seq layer function, or variable rather. So that's one if statement, and it's also going to have an else statement. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, what we're saying is if this layer exists called cutscenes, we want to mark the cur seq layer variable as being cutscenes. If that doesn't exist, we're just going to choose the instances layer. Now, this layer doesn't exist right now. We've not put this into our room, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. Open up the room for your game, rm_game main, and go to the room editor on the left. Now we have these other layers here called blocks, instances, tiles main, and background, but we don't have one called cutscenes. A cutscene is just like it suggests. It's like a cinematic. It's just a term that you'll often hear, so I just use it for the layer name. Let's go ahead and create a new layer, and we need to create a new asset layer, which is this one right here. So we'll click this button. It creates a new asset layer, and I'm going to rename that to cutscenes. And let's make sure that this layer is at the very top of the layer stack. So the idea is that when we play a sequence, we'll actually be playing that sequence on this layer. And since that layer will be above everything else, it should play over top everything and cover up the rest of our gameplay.